So as we talked about before, I run strategy and planning for IT at Atlassian. I worked for 6 CIOs. I've done this job a couple times before for companies like Cisco and Gap. I spent about 10 years in startups in Silicon Valley, none of which earned me any money. So here I am, still trying to earn money, unfortunately. I didn't pick the right ones. I heard Google did well. What I do right now in my role is I make sure IT is working on the right projects at the right time and that those projects are set up for success. The IT portfolio is getting quite large these days, not just in terms of complexity and what you're managing, but how much that costs. And that's becoming to get on the radar of corporate budgets, right? People want to know what's in there. Why does it cost so much? Why is IT so slow? Why is IT so expensive? How come it takes so long to get things? And so my job is trying to set these projects up for success. What remains consistent across all the companies I've worked with is that it's not just about the technology you're delivering, it's about how our teams work together. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So to get us started, I'm going to take a quick poll of the room. How many of you are using a non-employer device, a personal device? Mobile phone, tablet, personal device? Okay, me too. All right. On the other side, how many of you use your work computer for personal tasks? Anyone? Yeah, okay, a few of us. I have stories about that. We can talk later. Okay, well, how many of you actually have opinions about how these things are configured? For you, for your company? I mean, how many have opinions about what's on those things, right? Yeah, we do. We're opinionated people. So can you imagine what happened if you rolled out a new BYOD, bring your own device policy to your company, without really preparing anybody for all the change that was going to bring? And you don't really have to imagine. We made the mistake for you. And it resulted in over 200 comments in one day on our internal announcement blog. It's going to keep going. It took me a while to record that. It's kind of fuzzy. For context, we only had 1,200 employees at the time. 200 comments, 1,200 employees. They obviously had a lot of opinions. So what happened? Well, it turns out that we rolled out a policy that considered pressing security requirements, but didn't consider the privacy concerns of our employees, which resulted in Atlassians wondering how they were going to check their email when they were away from their laptops, and how to navigate their schedules on days where they had a lot of back-to-back meetings. And it all happened in one day, so it's a bad day to be sick, Mark. We rolled out a policy without checking in with our folks, business teams made up of opinionated people like you and me, to see how they would handle this change. I take that back. Roscoe was ready, so thanks for your support, Roscoe. I don't tell you this story to throw my workplace technology team under the bus. I love our workplace technology team. They're fantastic. One of the best I've worked with. But the reality is that if you've worked in IT for more than a week, you've experienced a project that failed to meet expectations. And we have data to back this up. Research from the Standish Group tells us that 80% of IT projects fail to meet expectations. That means only 20% are succeeding. So having experienced the ups and downs of turning failed IT projects into successful ones, I'm here to tell you there is a silver lining, and that it doesn't take a steep learning curve to put into place some practices that can help you change the success rate of your projects. But it does take a place to start, and that's what we're going to go through here. Since that failed BYOD policy change, our workplace technology team has not only changed how they work, they've written some practices that help our other IT teams work better as well. And over the past 3 years since that happened, our success rate has increased dramatically across IT by implementing some of these practices. And we're here to help you do the same. Like I mentioned, I've spent the last few years helping IT teams plan for successful projects. Some of the most actionable insights I've seen is in the Atlassian playbook. This advice isn't from Six Sigma teams, best-selling authors. It's practical, sometimes almost obvious advice written by software and IT teams at Atlassian. We've compiled all these practices that drive some of our most successful projects into this Atlassian team playbook, which is a collection of plays tried and tested by teams at Atlassian. A play is a technique that enables you to better understand and act on a problem or opportunity. And each play is written in easy-to-follow instructions any IT team can use when they're in the midst of a project that you just cannot let fail, or when there is not enough wine in the world to reply to 211 comments on an internal blog. Today we're going to focus on 3 plays that our IT teams rely on to manage a change. An end-to-end demo play, an IT project poster, and stakeholder communications. As we're talking about teams that can drive your IT team's success, you're going to see themes in that these relate to humans and how humans work together. I know we're in tech and we do a lot of technology things, but how humans work together is the success for these projects. These practices can enable your long-term transformation as well as solve some immediate pain points you might have today. Because as IT leaders, we're all influencing innumerable systems, process, and teams across our organizations every day. Change management cannot be an afterthought. Admittedly, it was an afterthought in that BYOD policy change, and you saw what happened there. But our bring your own device policy, this wasn't just a technology implementation change. It was our IT team enabling a business capability. That's what we do as IT. We're at the center of all the business processes, and we're playing a critical role in shaping our company's future. Think of a business capability as a building block on which your business partners run their business. Some are competitive advantages, while others are foundational. It depends on the strategy of your company. But what business capabilities have in common is that they're comprised of 3 critical pieces. The process by which the capability is delivered, the technology we use to deploy the capability, and the people who deliver the capability or who are impacted by it. And more on that in a minute. These 3 key pieces, process, technology, and people, allow IT to unleash new capabilities for teams across the business. Thinking of IT through this lens helps build the mindset needed to deploy successful projects. Let's take the recruiting team, for example. Recruiting might look to IT to deliver the best-in-class technology for candidate pipeline, for example. But what recruiting really wants from IT isn't necessarily the world's greatest candidate pipeline tool. That's the technology request. Recruiting wants to hire great people. That's their business goal. IT enables them to achieve this goal. We're not just responsible for purchasing and integrating the tool. We're here to empower recruiters for the right technology that integrates seamlessly across their process. Recruiting is just one of the business capabilities we help deploy. They want to hire great talent. Sales wants the purchase experience to be seamless. Your product teams want real-time analytics. The list goes on, but the commonality is that we at IT are the center of these things. So I'm going to take you through 3 examples from Atlassian's own outtakes, or our blooper reel, if you will, to illustrate what happens when any part of your business capability is overlooked. Let's start with something that sounds like a no-brainer. Robotics process automation. Is anyone here looking at robotics process RPA? Is that a new for anyone? Okay, yeah, a couple. It's a big priority for us at Atlassian IT and our finance team as well, actually. If your business partners talk about RPA anytime in the future, they're going to be talking about how quickly they can get it. I'll tell you that. Because last year we had a finance team come to us in IT, ready to go with an idea, and they said, IT, go automate. Now, of course, we were super happy to partner with our business partners in finance to incubate such a critical piece of technology. RPA is clearly the future for teams like finance. And as we completed our technology evaluation, we learned that the business team hadn't considered the process they were trying to improve, in the what and why of their RPA implementation. When we dug a little deeper, it was actually clear that they weren't even mature enough to handle a technology switch, their process. But unfortunately, it's pretty hard to automate a process that doesn't exist. So the project stalled. Another project in the 80% of failure projects. So let me break that misstep down into the 3 elements that make up the business capability. The people in this case, which was the finance team, the technology, which was RPA, And the process, of course, there was no process. We failed in our ability to deliver this project because even though the people and the technology were keen, the process just wasn't mature enough. We instead had a subconscious process, meaning that the finance team knew what they just didn't quite know how they did it, and they certainly didn't write it down. At the time, we didn't have a practice for reviewing the end-to-end process before we introduced new technology. In fact, because we weren't considering the business capability, this didn't even come on the radar. But we do now, thanks to that experience. We've learned to map the end-to-end process from our customers' experience. We have an intake review process at Atlassian IT, and it now considers the business process readiness before we agree to add something to the plan of record for IT. Every time the business comes to us with a request, especially if it's something they just want to go implement, whether it's RPA, applicant tracking technology, we spend time with our business stakeholders trying to get a thorough end-to-end picture of their process. And we've captured this play into one any IT team can follow, called the end-to-end demo play. It's live right now at Atlassian.com/change. And this play is a great way for your teams to get into the practice of listening to your stakeholders. As part of the end-to-end demo play, we sit down with our stakeholders and we map out every step of their process from start to finish. But the purpose of this exercise isn't to get a high-fidelity demo or to Six Sigma the heck out of it. It's rather for your teams and your business projects to get business partners to have a shared understanding of where there might be gaps in their process, and to, most importantly, discover this at the beginning of the project, not when you're about to buy something. Another step in moving projects to the 20% successful column. So that was an example of a subconscious process and how that can damage your project's success. Let's look at another one when a stakeholder shows up with a check and something they want you to implement. I've seen this a lot in IT teams. And the great news is that the IT demand has never been higher. Business teams are coming to us all the time asking for us to implement something, or wanting us to look at a solution, or wanting us to help them figure out something that can improve something in their technology stack. And it's super tempting to take the path of least resistance, and it's really hard to turn down free money. But this is just what happened with our learning and development team, who were so excited because they had just found a new shiny learning and development tool that they wanted to implement. So why would IT teams ever turn down free money? They were going to pay for it, right? And why would we risk making our stakeholder upset by saying that we weren't going to do it? Well, let's look at this business capability stack and see if this is set up for the 80 or the 20. So the L&D team had a goal of helping employees grow and a solid process for getting that learning and development content out to our employees. And they had actually identified a pretty nice solution for us to implement. However, what the L&D team didn't know is they actually already owned a solution that would do what they were looking to do. It just needed a little configuration. They were about to make an investment in their fourth L&D tool. It was actually at a company where we had 7. It was a small company, so they get large. We learned at the time how important it is to communicate the problem you're trying to solve, not the solution you want to implement. We got way too far down the path of pursuing this new technology without having a clear picture of the problem we were trying to solve or how the solution fit into our IT portfolio. Because we started with what we assumed was going to be the solution, we lost time and we almost purchased technology that was duplicative of what we already owned. We don't do that anymore, thanks to one of my favorite plays, the IT project poster, which, by the way, is also available in our playbook. The project poster brings your IT teams and your business partners together at the start of a project to define and validate, preferably with data, the problem you're trying to solve. Only when teams have an agreed upon definition of the problem, meaning they've completed the project poster, do they start discussing potential solutions. We as an IT leadership team will actually review that project poster, as well as the architecture team, as a step in our intake process. Our IT teams like project posters because it gives them some place to start rather than just a blank page in defining a project. I love project posters because it gives me a consistent set of consistent information across all of the projects that we're running at any time in IT. It defines the why, how, and what of the project. It also provides IT a common language for working with their business partners. No matter who in the business comes to no matter who in IT, they have a common framework for having a conversation about their project. Project posters have gone a long way in helping change the conversation from go buy this to help us solve this problem. And some of this might seem obvious, but your teams might not know how to start. And the project poster is a great way for them to start having these conversations. Okay, we talked about getting the process ready via an end-to-end demo play. And we just introduced my favorite play, the IT project poster. And I want to point out here that the common theme across all of these plays is that we need to make sure the business is ready at the same time IT is ready. To illustrate the importance of this, let's go revisit that first example, the BYOD policy change. So if you look at the capability stack, our process and tools were ready for the change. The breakdown happened because we didn't engage our stakeholders throughout the journey. They were not ready for the change. As IT leaders, it's critical that you help your IT teams understand the people impact of your technology changes. And the people impact is a two-sided coin. It requires IT people who are able and ready to deliver the change, and business teams who are ready because they are impacted by the change. And this requires solid communications. And just a spoiler alert here, you cannot over-communicate from IT these days. A purposeful communication plan goes a long way in building trust across all of your stakeholder groups. What I tell IT teams all the time is an email is not a communications plan. With the help of a stakeholder communications play, this helps your teams think through things like, who should I involve? What should I message? When should I message it? How should we engage end users? By using this play, we were able to bring our key, opinionated stakeholders along for our new BYOD changes. The BYO, I think I mentioned the workplace technology team actually helped with this. They co-authored this play, so they've helped other IT teams do this as well. One of the things that they did in their communication plan was they engaged key stakeholders through focus groups. They listened. When they were building the process, they used this input to redefine how they were going to do the project again. And this ended up being a super critical success factor when we released our BYOD policy. So how did it all turn out? Did 200 Atlassians delete their Slack from their phone, get rid of email? No, we had no incident, actually. It was great. We rolled out a new BYOD policy. Everything was fine. We had the same workplace tech team. They just had different plays to use when they were doing their project. We mapped the end-to-end process with our stakeholders. We collaborated with key opinionated stakeholders to understand, so they understood the problem as well as the impact of the change. And we consistently and constantly communicated and listened through focus groups, blogs, other media that we use at Atlassian to let everyone know that a change was coming and how to prepare for the change. So as I keep mentioning, we in the business are really in the role of deploying business capabilities across our company, and these are growing exponentially. Managing your company's technology portfolio is going to get overwhelming, and maybe it already is. Simple, repeatable processes like these help your IT teams manage the change. And me telling you that a stakeholder comms plan is a critical part of technology changes sounds obvious, but you'd be amazed at how many teams still don't do it. So I'm giving you a place to start and a repeatable framework to use. These plays, again, are available at Atlassian.com/change. For our BYOD example, it turned a failed project, literally, into a successful project with almost no incidents. What separates the good IT teams from the great ones and the projects that fall into the 80% failure versus the 20% success rate is how your team works. You need a set of practices to make sure IT and the business are prepared for change. Nail your practices, and you'll unlock even more capabilities across your teams. Thanks.